When the Iraq War started, Halliburton got a $1 billion no-bid contract. Some of the stuff has been so shoddy and so sloppy that our soldiers are over there dying in the shower from electrocution. I mean, it shouldn't be sloppy work, it shouldn't be bad procurement process, but it really shouldn't be, baby, that these people are so powerful they direct even policy. There's a great YouTube of Dick Cheney in 1995 defending Bush #1, and he goes on for about 5 minutes. He's being interviewed, I think, by the American Enterprise Institute. And he says it would be a disaster, it would be vastly expensive, it would be a civil war, we'd have no exit strategy. He goes on and on for 5 minutes. Dick Cheney says it would be a bad idea, and that's why the first Bush didn't go into Baghdad. Dick Cheney then goes to work for Halliburton, makes hundreds of millions of dollars as their CEO. Next thing you know, he's back in the government. It's a good idea to go into Iraq. The day after 9/11, George Tenet's going in the House, and Richard Pearl's coming out of the White House. And George Tenet should know more about intelligence than anybody in the world. And the first thing Richard Pearl says to him on the way out is, "We've got it, now we can go into Iraq." And George Tenet, who supposedly knows as much intelligence as anybody in the White House, says, "Well, don't we need to know that they have some connection to 9/11? He says it doesn't matter. It became an excuse. 9/11 became an excuse for a war that they already wanted in Iraq. But the reason I bring up foreign policy is that you can't balance your budget by cutting off the welfare claim. You do need to reform welfare, you need to reform entitlements, but the only coalition you're ever going to get, and the only way you ever get close to balancing a budget, is if you look at the entire budget. And that means looking at military procurements as well, which means looking at your foreign policy. You have to decide if we have an expansionist foreign policy that believes that we have to have 750 military bases and troops in 130 countries, or whether our foreign policy should be a little more directed towards what the Founding Fathers talked about, and that is more defense of our country and a less offensive or offensive type of foreign policy. Now, there's great disagreement. There probably is in this room with me on this. But what I'm telling you is that if you want to be consistently someone who believes in a balanced budget or be a fiscal conservative, you can't just say we're going to cut entitlements. Because one, there's not enough money to balance the budget that way, and two, it's not believable, and three, you're going to have a coalition. You're going to have to somehow get some Democrats to cut waste also, and the way you'll get them on board is to say we're going to cut waste across the board. I think these are important questions, and I think we need to analyze them as a party, and I think to go forward as a party and grow, we will not get bigger if we do the same old message. And so that's what I feel like my job is for the next 6 months or a year. Is I'm going to be going around Kentucky and giving speeches like this and trying to promote change and growth in our party. Thank you for inviting me.